There is a truth about human nature that most men never learn until life strips away every illusion. And that truth is this: time exposes what pride hides, reveals what ego denies, and amplifies what silence quietly uncovers. Brother, as you hear this, something inside you awakens, because a part of you has lived this truth without ever naming it. Picture this: your absence becomes the one lesson she never prepared to face. Not the drama, not the goodbye, the absence. At first she thinks she's in control. She tells herself a story where she's the hero and you are just a passing chapter. A story fueled by pride, protected by ego, and wrapped in the illusion that she can walk away untouched. But time doesn't bend to her narrative. Time doesn't negotiate with fantasy. Time reveals. And when your presence disappears, the world she built around your steadiness begins to fracture. Slowly at first, then violently. Because you weren't background noise. You were the emotional gravity holding her inner world together. Only now, in your silence, does she feel the weight of what she lost. Only now does she discover the cost of mistaking consistency for weakness and gentleness for dependence. This video isn't revenge. It isn't bitterness. It's clarity. It's the psychology of what truly happens when a good man steps back with dignity, and why the unraveling on her side begins long before you ever notice it. Before we dive in, brother, start this journey now, and tell me in the comments. Drop a 1 if old emotions still try to pull you back, or a 2 if you're finally living from your worth, not your wounds. Because what comes next isn't just truth. It's the part of the story she never expected time to reveal. Now let's step into the moment everything in her life begins to shift without you. 1. Your absence reshapes her world. Brother, there's a moment every man underestimates, the moment he quietly stops showing up. Not with anger, not with noise, just a clean, steady withdrawal. And it's exactly in that silence where the world of a woman who took him for granted begins to lose its shape. At first you've been told she's fine without you, that she moved on quickly, that she doesn't care. But somewhere deep inside, you still wonder, how can she walk away like nothing ever happened? What if the truth isn't what it looks like on the surface? Because in the beginning, she believes the same story everyone else repeats. She tells herself she's in control, that the distance is healthy, that she needed space, that she'll be better off. Those words hold her together for a while, because pride makes anyone feel untouchable at the start. She convinces herself that losing you won't matter, that her emotions are steady, that she has everything figured out. But you and I both know, brother, that emotional stories built on ego never survive the test of time. The reality is psychological. When a stabilizing emotional presence disappears, especially one she's relied on without ever acknowledging, her nervous system feels the loss first. Her mornings shift, her evenings grow heavier, the quiet moments stretch longer than she wants, and the silence you left behind becomes something she can't medicate, can't distract, and can't outrun. It follows her into her routines, into her thoughts, into the parts of her day she once moved through easily. She doesn't understand it yet, but this is where the unraveling begins. At first, the signs are light, almost invisible. A moment of irritability she can't explain, a memory that returns uninvited, a thought she tries to silence but can't. But the longer you're gone, the more the internal pressure rises. The absence she thought she could ignore begins bending the world around her. And the man she was convinced she didn't need suddenly becomes the foundation she never realized she was standing on. That's the part that shakes her most. Not losing you, but realizing you were the stability she never knew she depended on. Brother, what you did wasn't revenge. It was revelation. By stepping back, you allowed time to do what arguments never could. Time becomes the mirror she's terrified to face, the mirror that reflects who she was with you and who she is without you. And as she stares into that truth, one question begins to rise in her chest with a weight she can't escape. How did I not see his value when he was right there? But understand this moment is only the beginning of her fall. When time keeps moving and you remain still, the story shifts even deeper, and what comes next is where the breaking truly begins. 2. Her ego collapses first. She didn't break because she lost you, brother. She breaks because losing you completely contradicts the story she told herself about her power. That's the hook most men never understand. You think she's falling apart over love, over missing you, over the relationship ending. But women don't collapse over love. They collapse when their ego shatters, when the reality in front of them no longer matches the version of themselves they built inside their mind. And that's exactly what happens when a man like you walks away with calm, steady dignity. She told herself she could walk away without shaking. She told herself life would be brighter without you. She told herself there would be another man waiting, someone who would step into your place effortlessly. And most of all, she told herself you'd eventually chase, because every man before you did. That belief wasn't just confidence, it was the foundation of her identity. Her sense of value depended on the idea that you would always orbit around her, that she held the emotional gravity in the relationship. But then something happened that she never prepared for. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't negotiate. You didn't try to make her see your worth. You didn't plead for a second chance. You did the one thing she never imagined you would do. You disappeared with dignity. And nothing dismantles a woman's ego faster than the silent truth that the man she dismissed is the man who refuses to be diminished. This is where the first cracks begin to form. Not in her heart. No, the heart takes longer. But in her pride. Because if you aren't chasing, what does that say about her importance? If you can stay silent, what does that say about your strength? If you can walk away, what does that say about her belief that she held all the power? Psychologically, this is the moment her inner narrative shatters. For the first time, she is forced to confront a truth she never wanted to consider. Maybe she wasn't the one in control. Maybe she didn't understand you as deeply as she thought. Maybe she wasn't as irreplaceable as she claimed. Your silence becomes a scalpel that cuts through every illusion she built. Piece by piece, her assumptions fall apart. She begins to realize she didn't walk away from a weak man. She walked away from the one man she couldn't break, the one man who held his ground, the one man who didn't allow his worth to be negotiated. And that realization hits her harder than the breakup itself. It's not heartbreak, it's identity collapse. She must now face the uncomfortable awareness that the man she assumed would always remain available is gone, not because he stopped caring, but because he finally recognized his own value. You became the exception to her rule, the lesson she never saw coming. And brother, while this moment is the first blow to her ego, it is far from the final one, because once her pride cracks, the next stage won't just shake her. It will dismantle the entire story she built about who she was in your life. The fall gets much darker from here. 3. Regret chases her, not you. Every regret begins quietly, brother. Never with an explosion, never with a dramatic confession, but with a small, persistent shadow that follows her no matter how brightly she pretends to shine. She thought she could replace you. She thought someone new would step into the space you left. She thought moving on was just a matter of keeping herself busy, filling her days with noise, distraction, and motion. But the truth has a way of surfacing, and her heart knows long before her mind ever admits it. Something essential is missing. So she tries. She steps into new conversations with men who don't understand her depth. She experiments with new experiences, hoping they'll recreate the emotional spark she once felt effortlessly with you. She changes her routines, her habits, even her mindset in an attempt to outrun the echo of your presence. Yet every night she returns to the same hollow realization: none of it works. She can't explain it to herself, but she feels it. A subtle emptiness, a quiet longing. a sense that the ground beneath her is thinner than it used to be. Regret, brother, isn't loud in the beginning. It doesn't kick down the door of her consciousness. It seeps in slowly, like water rising beneath her feet. It's in the way every man she meets feels shallow when compared to the emotional depth you carried. It's in the thinness of conversations that used to feel effortless and safe when they were with you. It's in the energetic mismatch of trying to connect with someone who doesn't carry the grounding presence you brought into her life. And with every interaction, she is reminded, painfully, of what she once had and what she took for granted. The regret grows sharper when she realizes something even more terrifying. She didn't just lose you. She lost the version of herself that existed only in the emotional space you created for her. The version that felt safe, seen, understood without having to explain. That version of her lived because you were there. Without you, she feels exposed, misunderstood, unbalanced. And no matter how much she tries to fake strength or pretend she's thriving, she feels the emptiness echo through her life, repeating the same truth she keeps avoiding. This is the moment, brother, where the dynamic flips. You no longer feel the urge to prove yourself, to win her back, to show her who you are. That urge dissolves as you step into your own growth. Meanwhile, she begins to feel the urge to rewind time, to reach back for a moment she didn't appreciate when she had it, to grasp for the version of you she thought would always remain available. She wants the door to reopen, but your silence keeps it closed. And this is the part that burns. Time doesn't rewind. The past doesn't reopen. The man she once knew is no longer the man standing here today. And as that truth settles into her chest, regret stops being a whisper and becomes a weight she can't outrun. But, brother, understand this clearly. This isn't the end of her unraveling. This is just the beginning. The next phase is where the real breaking begins. 4. Your walk-away power. The moment you walked away, brother, something in her world shifted in a way she never anticipated. She didn't feel it immediately. At first, she thought it was just another breakup, another moment of emotional turbulence she could navigate. But as the days began to stretch, she realized something far more unsettling. Her world had lost its anchor. The emotional stability she thought she could live without was gone, and she was only now understanding the magnitude of that loss. She expected you to return. She expected the cycle to repeat. She expected you to bend the knee like before, to come back with apologies or explanations or hope. That expectation wasn't just a belief. It was the framework of her emotional reality. But you didn't return. You didn't chase the way she thought you would. You walked with dignity, and that, brother, is one of the rarest forms of masculine strength. No anger, no theatrics, no argument, just a steady, grounded departure that said more than any goodbye ever could. Your silence became the loudest message she's ever received. It became undeniable proof that you finally understood your worth, and you refused to participate in anything that diminished it. This is where the internal conflict begins for her. When a woman loses a man who was emotionally consistent, patient, present, and loyal, she expects the emotional vacuum to pull him back in. She expects his attachment to override his logic. She expects his love to overpower his boundaries. But it didn't. The vacuum remained empty. You didn't rush to fill it. You didn't rush to soothe it. And that's when the panic begins, because your absence isn't just quiet, it's intentional. Suddenly, she's forced to confront something she's avoided for a long time, her decisions. She can no longer blame timing or circumstances or misunderstandings. The truth stands in front of her with a weight she can't ignore. Her choices created her loss. Her pride created the distance. Her assumptions destroyed the connection. And for the first time, she sees her actions not through the lens of justification, but through the consequences they produced. She begins to understand that she didn't just push you away, she pushed away the only man who truly cared in the way she needed. Brother, this is where your silence becomes more than absence. It becomes a teacher, one she cannot mute, one whose lessons arrive day after day, hour after hour. Your discipline becomes a mirror she can't avoid, reflecting back every assumption she made, every moment she dismissed your presence, every time she believed you would always remain available. Your walk-away power forces her to look at herself without filters, without excuses, without illusions. And every quiet day that passes delivers the same revelation straight into her chest. He walked away because he finally saw his worth. She may not say it out loud, she may not admit it to anyone else, but inside she feels the truth tightening around her pride. It becomes harder to deny, harder to escape, harder to outrun. But understand this, brother. Time is far from done with her. What she's feeling now is only the first wave of a much deeper reckoning. As the silence stretches and your life begins to rise without her, the next phase will hit her even harder. The real breaking hasn't even begun. 5. Time proves your value. Time has one job, brother, to expose what was real and to erase everything that was built on ego, impulse, or illusion. It does not rush, it does not negotiate, it simply reveals. And as the days stretch into weeks and the weeks into months, time begins sharpening the truth she tried to bury beneath noise, novelty, and distraction. In the early days, she numbs herself with movement. New faces, new conversations, new routines that help her pretend she's fine, but distractions decay. They always do. Time, however, remains. And time is merciless with anything that isn't built on genuine substance. So life moves forward. The adrenaline of freedom fades. The excitement that once felt electrifying slowly dissolves into monotony. The world around her becomes quieter, less stimulating, less capable of drowning out what she doesn't want to feel. And in that quiet, she faces the collapse of everything she denied when she walked away. This is where psychological pressure sets in, not suddenly, but steadily, like a weight on her chest she can't remove. Her nervous system begins craving the emotional safety you once provided without asking for anything in return. The grounding presence, the stability, the patience, the loyalty, the masculine steadiness that let her breathe fully without fear. No one else can replicate that, brother. She learns that the hard way. The men she meets are inconsistent, uncertain, ego-driven, emotionally immature. They are sparks without fire, noise without substance, movement without direction. And the comparison becomes torture because now she sees what she once had with new clarity, clarity born from loss. She realizes she miscalculated the rarity of what she had. She realizes she misjudged your strength. She realizes she misunderstood your silence. It wasn't surrender, it wasn't confusion, and it wasn't weakness, it was evolution. While she repeated the same emotional patterns, you were growing into someone she no longer has access to. Time becomes your ally, brother, and her executioner. Every day magnifies the truth she tried to avoid. You weren't average. You weren't replaceable. You weren't another man in her story. You were exceptional. You were the standard she didn't appreciate until she tried to live without it. And nothing humbles a woman faster than realizing she lost the man every other woman would fight to have. The kind of man who brings stability without control, devotion without dependency, and strength without arrogance. But understand this. Time has not finished its work. What she's facing now is only the beginning of the reckoning, and the fall gets darker still. 6. She realizes too late. There comes a moment, brother, a sharp, brutal moment when the truth finally pierces through every story she told herself, and she understands with a kind of clarity that steals the air from her lungs. You are not coming back. That moment arrives quietly on the outside, but violently on the inside. It's the moment her facade collapses, the moment her confidence erodes, the moment her pride, once her shield, begins to decay from the inside out. She can no longer pretend. She can no longer hide behind the illusion of control. Something in her shifts, and for the first time, she feels the weight of her decision the way you felt it on the day she walked away. She starts replaying old conversations, searching them for signs she missed. She scrolls through old messages, trying to find the man who once needed her, the man who once would have moved mountains just to keep the connection alive. But that version of you is gone, replaced by a calmer, stronger, more grounded man, someone she no longer has access to. She expected everything to be reversible. She believed time would eventually favor her. She assumed you would break first, that you would reach out, that your silence was temporary. But instead, she's the one breaking. And this realization doesn't just sting, it annihilates. Her chest tightens in moments she can't explain. Her thoughts spiral at midnight when the world is quiet enough for regret to speak clearly. Her nights become battlegrounds where memories of you overwhelm her pride. Because now she sees the truth with perfect, unforgiving clarity. You were irreplaceable, and she treated you like you were disposable. But here is where your path rises, brother. Instead of looking back or questioning your worth, you move forward, calmly, purposefully, with the kind of stoic resolve that only a man who's done the inner work can embody. While her world tilts under the weight of regret, your footing becomes steadier. Your silence becomes discipline. Your distance becomes growth. Your evolution becomes undeniable. And she watches from afar, watching your life expand, watching your spirit strengthen, watching the man she once knew evolve into someone she can no longer reach. The man who once gave her effortless access now stands at a distance she cannot cross. And that distance is no longer a boundary. It's a free fall. The fall she never anticipated, the fall she cannot stop, the fall that changes everything moving forward. 7. Your silence haunts her. Silence isn't empty, brother. Silence is a mirror, and what she sees in it is the truth she spent months trying to outrun. During the day she performs strength, moving through life as if nothing touches her, as if losing you didn't fracture something inside her. But nighttime exposes every lie she told herself. Night removes her defenses, strips away her distractions, and leaves her face to face with the reality she denied when the sun was up. And it's there, lying in bed with the world quiet and her phone still, that your absence becomes unbearable. The emotional collapse that she kept hidden finally reaches its peak. This is when her mind replays every moment she dismissed you, every time she underestimated you, every time she had the chance to choose you, and didn't. She used to think you were the problem. Now her biggest enemy isn't you, it's the memory of you. The version of you who cared without conditions, who showed up despite the weight on your shoulders, who offered emotional safety she never found again. Nothing hurts a woman more than realizing she was loved by a man who would have done anything for her, and she was the one who destroyed that version of him. And this is what makes your silence so powerful. It becomes the punishment she can't negotiate, the truth she can't silence, the consequence she can't avoid, and the closure you never had to speak. Your silence forces her to confront the version of herself she never wanted to acknowledge, the part of her that ruined the best thing she ever had. But here's the beauty of your path, brother. You don't need to speak. You don't need to correct her, justify yourself, or reopen old wounds. Time is speaking for you. Silence is finishing the lesson. And every day you remain silent, every day you focus on rebuilding yourself instead of rescuing her emotions, she sinks deeper into the truth she once ran from. She begins to understand that losing you wasn't just a breakup. It was the moment her world shifted into a reality she wasn't prepared to face. And the longer you hold your silence, the more that truth tightens around her. But what comes next is the phase where everything breaks completely. 8. You win by staying gone. Here's the truth she never saw coming, brother, because she was too busy believing her own illusion of control. You didn't lose her. She lost you. Men often fear losing women, but women fear something far deeper, losing the right man. And as time stretched on, it revealed exactly which one you were. The longer you stayed silent, the clearer it became that you weren't the man who crumbled when abandoned. You were the man who rose when tested. You didn't chase after she walked away. You didn't beg for clarity that she weaponized against you. You didn't collapse under the emotional weight she expected you to carry. Instead, you did something far more powerful. You rebuilt. Quietly. Discipline first. Emotions second. You didn't rise to prove her wrong. You rose because life demanded a stronger version of you. And that, brother, is what destroys her. Not the breakup, not the silence, not even the loneliness. It's the realization that while she unraveled under the weight of her ego, you upgraded your entire life. Nothing haunts a woman more than watching a man she took for granted become the man she always hoped he would become, just no longer for her. She sees you becoming grounded, focused, intentional. She sees the confidence returning to your eyes, the discipline shaping your decisions, the strength you no longer waste on convincing someone to stay. Your growth becomes the final nail in the coffin of her pride. Every improvement you make echoes the same message. You weren't the problem. You were the blessing she mishandled. And that's why your path now must remain forward. Stay focused, stay disciplined, stay gone. Because the man you're becoming deserves a partner who values him, not someone who only recognized his worth once it slipped through her fingers. Your evolution is your victory. Your silence is your boundary. Your progress is your closure. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. A man on his mission never moves backward for someone who abandoned him. You win not by trying to make her regret, not by feeding your ego, but by moving forward with purpose, by stepping into the version of yourself that life was calling you to become long before she left, by proving to yourself, not to her, that you were always capable of standing tall, rising higher, and living stronger than she ever imagined. And as time continues its work, she'll feel the truth more clearly than any message you could ever send. She didn't just lose a man. She lost the one man she will never replace. And you win, brother, simply because you chose to walk toward your future while she remained trapped in the past she created. Brother, after everything we've walked through, there's one truth you can't unsee anymore. Time doesn't just reveal